the agenda now. Can we move forward for the declarations of interest? Is there anything on the agenda that people have a conflict that they need to declare, or whether there's any other declarations of interest that have not been previously noted? I can't see any hands, so I will continue to move on. So from page 3 to 7 in the agenda pack, we've got the minutes of the last meeting. And I would just like to, for the members of the HGP, I'd just like you to have a look at those and check that they were an accurate reflection of the meeting. And if they weren't, could you put your hand up now, please? I can't see any hands, so I will take those as accurate. In terms of the action log, we have 4 items on that agenda, of which most of them are due to be completed in May 2022. So unless there's an update, some of those activities won't have been completed. But if there's any of those, either from David, Robert, Sandra or Florence, that has been completed and they would like to update, we will bring those back to the next meeting once they have been completed. So any hands? Alex?
I think those most of them were completed. I think unless I sent out accidentally an earlier version, but the column on the right should have an update on them saying that they were completed, I think.
Okay, yes, sorry. Now I've scrolled to the to the edge. Absolutely. So the only one, that's right, there's a future date to be confirmed, I think for your item, Alex, but everything else has. Okay, so if that's the case, let's move straight on into the agenda with, I don't think Sarah is here yet, and she was certainly one of the first on the agenda, so I might just switch the agenda round slightly. So first of all, can I, if we move on to maybe the, we can start with the update on the health and equalities funding, and then the first 2 items will defer until Sarah comes back into the room, if that's okay. So what I'm going to do, this is an item that I'll be covering, but there's lots of other people who've been participating in this. So what I'm going to do is do a screen share. Now, this is a presentation. We haven't produced any papers in advance, so you won't see this in your pack, but we'll talk through some of the work that's been happening. Let me see whether that works. Okay, is this showing up on your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Excellent. Okie doke. I can't see you now. So I will just talk through this item. So if somebody is wanting to say something, I will verbally need a cue because I can't actually see anybody. So, okay. So what at the last Healthier Greenwich partnership, we recognised that there was some CCG money and which was going to be around health inequalities, and the Healthy Greenwich partnership asked us to set up a task and finish group to think through not necessarily the detail and all the finer proposals, but about how the context of the money and putting some recommendations forward for this group to actually consider. So I just want to talk through the process that we've been through and where we have got to for that. So what we're going to be asking the Healthier Greenwich Partnership is two things. One, that they endorse our approach and the proposals around what we're suggesting, and then also to really note that this is work in progress and we need to really develop these the opportunities and refine some of the ideas further. So in terms of the Health and Equalities Task and Finish group, what we did was establish a group, and what we wanted to do as part of this is really look at this across a system. We recognise that health inequalities can only be addressed with system partners coming together with communities and members of our public to think through how we might do things differently in the future. And so there was the first deliberations really included a number of system partners in that development. What we recognise, and this really is the output of the series of meetings we've had. As you'll be aware, we've had a very short timescale regarding this. So this is the work where we've got to date. So what we recognise is health inequalities is a tractable problem, and there's lots of things that impact, and we need to understand all of those things and address all of those things. So the first context of this is a small bit in a whole series of things that we're doing across the system and that communities are doing to support us as well as individuals, and therefore we have to see this in a context. The second thing is I think where the first deliberations is what we didn't want was to have an approach where it's a number of projects, they finish and they're not sustained, and it finishes, and we don't have a sustainable continuation of how we address health inequalities. So this was more about how we could work differently, take a more long-term approach, and actually make addressing health inequalities everybody's business, because that's exactly what it should be. We recognise that there were some building blocks to change, and I won't go through these, but they were helpful in the group thinking about the different areas. So there's something about how we understand where those inequalities exist. There's something about planning how we do things differently, how we co-produce designs. There's also the intervention. So if we're co-producing new different ways of doing things, what are those interventions, and then how we evaluate those, and obviously the leadership around that. What we came up with, because this wasn't about identifying necessarily project A, project B, and this is what we do, it was more about how we change the system to work differently in that wider context. So what we set out the vision, which was about how we improve health and well-being, but how those people who face the greatest inequalities improve their health the fastest. And it was about joining up the approaches that everybody's taking across Greenwich, but empowering the individuals and communities at the heart of that. So there were three areas that we could probably shape as part of this work, again, in that wider context. One is about getting that much richer understanding and hearing the voices and experiences of our local people, and especially around their differential experiences and access. the developing the infrastructure that that connects people to that wider support. So sometimes, for example, there's already a social prescribing infrastructure, but how does that develop to enable more people accessing the wider range of support? And then the third was about our workforce. Was about our workforce and making that everyone's business. So what people will recognise here is that isn't everything that needs to happen. It's part of the puzzle. So, for example, on workforce, we know we need to have a more diverse workforce that represents our diverse population. So we know we need to develop our organisations as anchor institutions. So so that work is happening too, but this is just a part of it. So these were the so I'm just going to tell you, just go through the headlines really for the areas that we looked at. We wanted to kind of invest in population health data, really understanding those differential experiences. We also wanted to do a lot more about building the insight capacity and capability. So that's at the heart of everything that we do. And also we need to make sure that in order to facilitate that, we do need to understand to make sure our data collection, we're collecting the right data in terms of protected characteristics and other things where people experience poorer outcomes. So the second kind of area about that infrastructure, and this was very much building on the brilliant work in terms of the community, in terms of the community infrastructure, in terms of work that our system partners have done because of the learning from the pandemic. And so there were 4 areas that we wanted to champion across this. One was the social prescribing infrastructure. The second was developing, building on all the participatory budgeting approaches that we've used, building that capacity in community, developing the champions and volunteering roles, and also building on all that deep engagement. So this was all about the community. And then the final area was about connecting some of the workforce and ensuring our workforce promotes a bit of make every opportunity or contact count. So everybody's promoting health, but also everybody's promoting and addressing health inequalities in everyday work. And there were a few areas we thought we could do that. So one of those ideas was giving staff, creating opportunities for staff to work in different ways, to actually develop the way of doing that. So through clinical fellows, through secondment opportunities, so people are immersed in the doing so that they can then share that with teams and work differently. And if we do a lot more of that, then what we're doing is building that capacity and capability in teams. And then there were a few other areas. We did think there was probably a need. There's so much work that's going on and so much insight. And what we actually need to do is bring together all of those approaches so that we so that we're collectively learning from all of it and sharing, because what is relevant in one area is often relevant in another area. So it literally was trying to bring all of that together. So those were the areas. I'll stop there. There's we have sent a pack to the HGP members, which has some of the detail in relation to that. Let me just take me off Let me just stop screen share so I can see everyone. I think I have.
Yeah, you have. I think it's working. You've done it.
Lovely. I've done it. Great. Okay. So that was a lot to go through, but I know a lot of if you look at the slide pack that we've sent, that has a lot more of the detail within it, and I think what I would probably like to do here today is, one, take comments on that and some of our approach. Two, it would be really helpful to reflect on the process. There's a lot of people around the table who were part of the group, and to reflect on the process, because that was kind of a little bit of a new way of doing things, and involved a lot of people. But is that way in that setup we did, is that sustainable? And then whether there's anything we've missed. So if we just have a reflection, and then I'll come back to what the ask was of the group. So comments. Sandra.
I'm happy to reflect on the process, Jackie. So as you say, it involved lots of people, and my credit to you and the team for sort of bringing what was, loads of different ideas and views together in a summary that I think makes sense and does represent overall what came out of the discussion. So I mean, obviously there's no way that every single idea that we all discussed over those 2 weeks or 3 weeks would make it in, but I certainly feel that the kind of overall themes have effectively captured the main things that came out of those discussions.
Thank you, Sandra. And Nyan.
Yeah, I think given the short time span that you guys had to work under to deliver this, I think how everyone came together to come up with the ideas, to come up with some sort of proposal at pace to put this in. I think it the end result is quite good. I think my only thing is I wish they wouldn't do it this way in the future. I think we need more time to do it so we get it right, or not to say that we haven't got it right, but actually we could possibly do a bit more digging and come up with something if we, just in case we'd missed something. But I think it was good. It was a really good effort, and we've captured a lot, and we brought a lot of people together. So in a short space of time, so it's well done.
Thank you, Nyan. Naomi.
Probably echoing what I mean, it's amazing actually what we've managed to do, and shows the incredible commitment the system has around trying to handle health inequalities. I guess just two things. I don't think people could sustain doing this lots and lots of times. I think we'd all collapse in a heap, including you, Jackie. And just people like me who talk a lot, maybe some of those techniques that work, on which sort of using the chat, maybe some workshops to make sure that people like me don't kind of dominate I'm always very aware that sometimes I dominate the screen, so just allowing other people that way of having their say would just be my suggestion. But yeah, amazing, well done, brilliant.
Lovely, thank you, Naomi. Tuan.
Hi, Tun Tran, LMC Chair. Yeah, reiterate a lot what people said. I think you did a fantastic job. I think, considering the ask of us, considering bringing everyone together in that space of time, I think it was probably the only approach to do that, to get everyone together, to keep the net wide and open, to embrace all different types of ideas. But then I really like the way you quickly narrowed down and got us to focus on the task at hand, and to try to bring all these ideas to kind of a focus on a conclusion. I think you summarised really well the way the workshop worked with a number of workshops, because we can't always attend on a certain day, a certain time. But given that opportunity, I think was really helpful. At least you can always say I provide as much opportunity for people who wanted to engage to do so. So in many ways, I thought is a fantastic, testing, test pilot, if you like, for work to come. So I thought it worked really well. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good to hear, because it was a bit of a different way of doing something, and I absolutely agree. I mean, with everything, but Naya, and your point about this isn't sustainable to do this because it takes a lot of effort in a very short period, and so I think there's some probably reflection back up to Southeast London about is there a different way of doing these things, so that either what we do is there is there's proposed funding and we have more time to consider those, or also that it's kind of a bid process, and whether that's the right fit for the work that we're doing. So I think that there's a lot of I have similar reflections on that, so I will feed up, but thank you everyone who was part of the group in getting us there. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately it doesn't end, so there's a lot of work we need to do to take it through the next steps, and luckily, because a lot of it was around insight and how we work with communities, what we will do is we will need to work very closely with our communities and residents now to get this kind of fit for purpose. So can I just ask the Healthy Greenwich Partnership to and both endorse the approach and also note that this is work in progress. So if there's no objections, I will take that as done. Lovely, thank you. Okay, let's go on to the next agenda item. I can't see whether has Sarah arrived yet. No. Okay, so in which case I will go through to is Uliana here?
Yes, I am here.
Lovely, thank you, Uliana. Are we happy to take yours next? Because I don't think Robert has arrived for his system development piece yet. So are you happy to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm happy to go ahead if the members are okay with that. Hello everyone, I'm Juliana Dinu and I'm the Communication Engagement Manager for Greenwich as my substantive role, and also Head of Engagement for the South East London CCG. And I'm here on behalf of Russell today, Russell Cartwright, who is the Assistant Director for Communication and Engagement. You already received the papers, and we are coming to you today with few proposals, and we are wanted you to consider endorsing or different options that we put together around public engagement and communication for the Healthy Greenwich Partnership. And I think this is very well complementing all the work that you've done as part of the health inequalities work and everything that Jackie said before, and it's going to complement that work, I hope. The first point for the discussion is the public engagement, and on this we are looking at how the Healthy Greenwich Partnership would fit their approach within the South East London ICS Integrated Care Partnership approach. The second one is around how we're going to continue working together as a partnership to plan and deliver engagement activities, and that's complementing very much what was said before. And the third point would be around how the Healthy Greenwich Partnership meeting would ensure that we will there will be engaging with the public. And the second point, as I said, it would be around communication. But looking at the public engagement, the first point was around how our Healthy Greenwich partnership engagement approach would fit within the South East London engagement approach. As an ICS, already the engagement team started working on the working with people and community approach and a framework, and they have developed that, and that's going to be published soon. But we, as a Healthy Greenwich partnership, we've been contributing with a lot with insight from the communities in Greenwich and our work in the last few years, and all the insight contributed to this framework approach. And as a South East London Integrated Care Partnership, there are already established few groups who are looking at engagement, and we have an engagement practitioner network that had already 3 meetings, and they were very well attended with engagement practitioners from across the system. We have an engagement assurance committee, and that's going to look at like engaging with residents and the public. And there will be also most likely to be developed a system level engagement planning group, and that's going to be led by chaired by one of the ICS leaders. And we would like to ensure that that our local approach it's complementing and joined up with the system level approach, and because in this way we can be most effective, and we can make most use of our resources, and would be in line with the principles of subsidiarity. And as an example, I would like to and it was mentioned in the papers, the Let's Talk Health and Care platform. What is this? It is an engagement tool that was created. We have a hand up. Shall I stop, or shall we take the questions at the end? How?
Perhaps continue. Perhaps take
the end. Mine's just a general comment. So yeah.
Okay, then I will continue.
Okay, so let's take the paper, and then we'll take all the comments at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's talk health and care in South East London. It is a platform that was created and developed by the engagement central team to offer the opportunities to residents from across South East London to engage in different projects, engagement activities, and this is open to everyone. We invite everyone, and we will be building up on the members on this platform. We know this is not the only way to engage, and it's just complementing all the other engagement activities that are happening at local level. But this is offering opportunities for Healthy Greenwich Partnership, which has a hub on the platform to open up partnership projects there for the residents in Greenwich to engage, and will be different opportunities as surveys, closed forums, open forums, polls, and it's a very interactive, like creating maps, interactive maps, and as I said, the Healthy Greenwich Partnership has a hub on this platform, and it's for you as a member of this board to discuss and decide how we would and consider how we wish to use this platform for our engagement activities in Healthy Greenwich Partnership. The second point for our public engagement discussion today would be around working together to plan and deliver engagement activities, and for this is we would like to see how we can build and continue building on the good foundation that has built in the partnership work in response to COVID-19 pandemic, and we would like to achieve as active and continuous involvement in our work. And this is, I think, is very much complementing what you've been working on the health inequalities and supporting that work, because it is we'd like to achieve to continue involving and continue initiative as deep engagement work through community neighborhood champions and community of interest and community champions wider group. as part of the Southeast London working with people and community approach, the team is looking to develop a lot of tools, how to guide, templates to assist all parts of the system to be able to engage, because engagement, as the same as with health inequalities, it's everyone business. It's not just the communication and engagement team. And with all those tools and guides and toolkits would be able to also develop a criteria for assessing how much input from the engagement team we should have in each, depending of the different projects. The proposal for you today is we are looking and we would like to develop a Healthy Greenwich Partnership public engagement steering group and to establish this, which to be able to plan ahead jointly engagement activity, increase collaboration and coordination, share good engagement practice, share insight, and to align plans and activities if it's possible, because this would help us to better gather intelligence and also minimize the duplication. And we will ask you today to consider endorsing this proposal. And the third point on the public engagement, it's around engaging with the public for those Healthy Greenwich Partnership meetings. We now, during the last 2 years, Greenwich Borough-based board has been meeting virtually every 3 months and have questions asked from the public at the end of each meetings. And but we know this didn't manage to achieve having a bigger number of residents coming to those meetings, and also this making it's a bit difficult sometimes to make the content accessible for the public. And we, as a Healthy Greenwich Partnership, we would like to achieve a more local accountability and also to border outreach our who knows about those meetings and understand and can contribute and give feedback or ask questions from the topics that are discussed at those meetings. And because of that, and also to ensure that we remain transparent and open, we presented 3 options for you to consider. And the first option was to have the same approach as the borough-based board and have organizing the meetings in public with opportunities for participants from the public to ask questions at the end of each meeting. The second option was to hold those meetings in public, but with no opportunities for public to be engaged, just ask questions beforehand. And the third option is for you to consider to continue to having those meetings in public, but with no opportunities for public to ask questions during the meeting, but with opportunities to create an engagement quarterly informal public open forum sessions that would be open to everyone and organized maybe at different times, and also making more an informal discussion with and inviting the people to give their insights, to tell about their issues, what is important to them, and the same to take a question beforehand. Hosting under the Let's Talk Health and Care platform, engagement platform, the opportunities for people to ask questions or comment before those meetings. All those information would be brought to the group, the Healthy Greenwich Partnership group at those meetings. And we invite you today to choose an approach that you think it's good for the group. And the second part of the discussion today, as I mentioned initially, it was around communication. And at communication, we are looking how we building on a strong branding for our Healthy Greenwich Partnership. And we would like to suggest you to consider to us developing a branding and to ensure that we can make people more aware and our stakeholders about the work that is happening and Healthy Greenwich Partnership is doing. And we would like you to consider this proposal, and we will take this forward and we'll bring you updates at the future meetings. And the last but not the least point on the discussion is collaboration to communicate about partnership working. And for this, with our partnership has already a very well established COVID communication group, and this is has a membership, includes CCG members, Royal Borough of Greenwich Communication and Public Health, Oxley Foundation Trust, Lewisham and Greenwich Trust, Greenwich Healthwatch Greenwich, Metro Govs, Chamber of Commerce, Child Natality Community Trust, University of Greenwich, and London and South East colleges. Then those are the members of this group at the moment. This group was created during the pandemic because of the need of us to share messages, have common messages together, and also support each other. And what we would like for you to consider today is to make this group transform in Healthy Greenwich communication steering group, and they will be responsible and oversees the development and the delivery of the Healthy Greenwich Partnership communication strategy and plans. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. That was a lot to get through in a short period of time. Okay. Well, what I'll do is invite. I'll invite comment or the people who've got the hands up, and then we can just have a discussion around each of those points. But just before I do that, I can see Sarah has arrived, and so welcome, Sarah. We've shifted the agenda slightly so that the first two items we were waiting for yourself to arrive, but we've taken some of the others. So, okay, shall I invite Naomi?
This is obviously a huge amount of work, Juliana, and it's very admirable. It's about cogs within cogs within cogs. So all the work that we've done around voice, which we now have a voice charter, we have ways of working. We will very soon have a policy around funding people for voice, and hopefully, if we get on the follow-on funding, we'll have a voice hub, which will work across the whole system and many other systems. So how this all links in with that, and how much there is subsidiarity, and it isn't all just being dictated by South East London CCG. Because I think, I think what we've managed to achieve and the consensus that we've managed to achieve has been pretty amazing. So I think, you've got something to build on. Let's build on that and make sure that we aren't kind of, sort of going on different tram lines. And just on the issue about how we get members of the public involved, I think you probably find they want to be here, but I'm big into workshopping and having different methodologies in which people can get involved. So it may be that you have kind of the presentational bit like this, but then you do some sort of workshopping that allows the public to have more of a say. That's me.
Thank you, Naomi. And Joy.
Hello, Joy from Healthwatch Greenwich. Nice to see you, Liana, and thank you for your presentation. You got through a lot there, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure if I caught all of it, but sort of starting at the end with regards to the choices. So I think that we probably all welcome, greater transparency and more opportunities for the patients and service users, obviously, to get involved. So whichever of those choices lead to greater transparency, that would certainly get our vote from Healthwatch Greenwich. You also spoke about the development of tools and guidelines, and as I'm sure you're aware, there's loads of that stuff already out there. So it's just a plea for us not to start sort of redesigning the wheel. I mean, all that stuff is out there. There's a lot of really good stuff already out there. In your paper, there was quite a lot of emphasis on the digital platform that South East London are funding. Again, as you're aware, particularly related to health inequalities, we need to ensure that we're not excluding those people who, for whatever reason, are not able to participate on digital platforms. So we really need to make sure that we're still doing lots of face-to-face work to enable all sections of the community to take part in that engagement. But on the digital platform, can I just check, will all partners have access to the platform, including Healthwatch and the voluntary sector, or is this platform only for the local authority and statutory partners?
Shall
You
I?
can,
Yeah.
yeah.
With regards to the last question about the accessibility for all the partners to the platform, at the moment, because of the information governance rules, it's for the CCG members to have access to administrate projects, but all the Greenwich Healthy Partnership projects can be on this platform, and that would means like working together to ensure that we are presenting and including those projects on the platform. We are looking to work with the information governance team to see how it's possible, because those questions they're coming from the all engagement teams from across the system, and that would need to be considered. Because as becoming an integrated care system, an integrated care board, we will need to look at how we're gonna make the information governance rules possible to ensure that all partners have access to what it is available. Yeah, all resources. Then it's still a bit of work to information governance team on that, but I will get back to you as soon as we have more information on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Uliana. That would be a really important thing to make it accessible to all. So we can listen to see how we've managed to achieve that. Tuan.
Hi, yes, again, like everyone said, you were a fantastic presentation, Ileana. I think you did really well to get through that. Obviously, Naomi and Joy probably better place in terms of giving comments about feedback engagement. But my initial thoughts are, firstly, it seems you can't get enough different forms of engagement, because there's such a wide group, and while with from a different age group, different access to technology, so you can't have too much different methods, different techniques of engagement. So a new digital platform is welcome. And also the other thought is like you said, is really important to build on what you know already. And the COVID steering group, all that group's coming together with communications. So building what is there locally, I mean, I'll be happy to endorse that as kind of like a kind of steering group for the Greenwich engagement. Yeah, so I think those are the main thoughts. I think going forward in terms of the Healthier Greenwich partnership, I think what I found with the borough-based board before is that when members of the public come with questions which haven't been made aware to the members, then it can be difficult to give in that immediate time to give an informed and comprehensive response. So I don't know whether in the option there is a kind of maybe a slight amendment to one of the options to get the members of the public to put in questions beforehand, so that people can prepare and give informed response. But maybe and more than that, if they do attend a meeting, it's good to see that the questions is addressed. I think if they come to the meeting themselves, but also maybe to create a small space and time for any pressing questions that the matters might have arisen in the meantime, or anything urgent that allow them the forum to kind of ask emergency questions that can be taken away if necessary. But I think often the opportunity, I think that would be good. I think those are, yeah, and final point was regarding the digital platform. I had a look at it. I think it looks really good. It looks really professional, and we start to see this kind of like a general template that SEL has. We see it for the kind of bulletin for Greenwich, whereby all the boroughs has a similar, but obviously it's tailored to the local area. And I think that approach makes a lot of sense. There's a professionalism that comes with that kind of presentation. You also have the administrative support, which maintains ongoing. I say again, so yeah, very much welcome that kind of digital platform for certain digital savvy group. So all in all, yeah, it sounds very exciting. Very happy to support most of the proposal, and maybe just to regard the healthy partnership to allow members to ask questions beforehand, submit questions beforehand, and maybe a short time within the meeting for any urgent questions. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Tuan. Can I bring in Richard, please?
Yeah, thanks, Juliana. I'm Richard Rice. I'm a lay member of the Greenwich Borough-based board, and whilst we're running in shadow form, that makes me a lay member of this board. Yeah, I mean, great paper there, Juliana. And I mean, in general, I would say I do endorse it, to get that one off the top of my head straight away. In terms of specifics, I kind of agree with Tuan. The digital platform is a great idea, but it definitely has to be viewed as additionality, that we don't make the digital platform our only form of engagement. And the second point on that would be that we've got to make sure people know about it, because it'll be of no use at all if people don't know about it. So we need to get the message out there that the platform exists. In terms of the use of the platform, you mentioned several potential uses. I think the best uses would be to publicise projects that are in the pipeline as early as we possibly can, to flag up decisions that are going to need to be made in the future. They've mentioned in your paper the idea that we could have polls running, which I think is great, you know, that we could start to poll members of the public about future decisions as soon as we know they're on the table. And of course, that facility to ask questions will be great as well. So I think it's a really good development, and fully endorse that for the future. Coming down to the thing about public questions in meetings, the three proposals there, again, I'm with Tuan on this one. None of those proposals actually preclude each other, and so I would actually want to go with all of them. I'd want to have the opportunity to ask questions in advance via the digital platform. But I'd still want to have the people to be able to raise questions at the meeting that have just occurred to them. I don't want to shut down that level of discussion. I take on board Tuan's point that it's often frustrating that you can't answer a question when you didn't know it was coming. But I think, you know, when we get those questions, we always respond to them later on in the minutes. So it's not a big issue. So annoyingly, I would go for all three of the proposals for that one. But overall, I think it's a great paper, and it does have my endorsement.
Lovely, thank you. And Lisa, and then Nyan.
Thanks, Jackie. Lisa Wilson, Integrated Director Commissioning for Adults. I too really support the approach in terms of digital platforms, but agree with that inclusivity point. We know from working with people with disabilities or other protected characteristics, you need to have a range of methods, as Joanne says. We've also learnt a lot through our learning disability and mental health work. So, you know, I think there's something about connecting up across the system what we already know about what people's views are around what's working well and what could be better. And I wonder through the digital platform whether there's an opportunity around kind of repository of voice from previous pieces of work, so that we don't kick things off and do things that have already been done before. And I would completely agree with Naomi and Joy's points about connecting up on tools and some of the work that's already happening, because I think there's lots of that. There's something for me about terminology as well. When we're talking about engagement, co-production, consultation, they're slightly different in terms of their approach and the purpose of them. So I think if some of this can build on the work that Naomi spoke about and help people understand the difference, and help our workforce to know that it is everybody's business to work with our residents in a way that's really meaningful, that would be really helpful if we can connect that up. I also had a bit of a specific question, Juliana, about another platform that we've been speaking about in the mental health space, something which Oxley's colleagues have mentioned called Bang the Table. So that's been being looked at, and I just wondered whether there was any connection there between what you're doing and that other platform.
This platform, it stays under Bang the Table as a system, but it's called Let's Talk Health and Care in South East London, but it's under the Bang the Table system.
That's helpful. So overall, I think I support those recommendations and having a steering group, as long as it's that kind of joining up networks of networks and exposing things that people have already said. On the communications point, if it's worked well during the pandemic and a join up of communications colleagues across the partnership, then it seems like a sensible recommendation to me.
Lovely, thank you, Lisa. Nyan.
Thanks, Juliana. That it was a good presentation. So I'll just answer the last question first. I think converting it to a communication steering group would make perfect sense. What we did, so I think that would be perfect. In terms of the digital engagement tools, etc., I think they're great additionality, as long as we recognise that they are an additionality. I think in terms of the whole engagement and communications team, etc., whoever it must make sure that it receives all the engagement, feeds into it. All the engagement that's received from various organisations feeds into it. So you're getting everything rather than just the bits that you have access to. So I think that's really important for you to ensure going forward. I think in terms of the options for meetings, I think having been at public meetings before and tried option 1 and then moved to option 2, etc., it was really difficult to get a balance. I think what I would be in support of, you can't have a public meeting where you can't allow the public to ask questions. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So I would go for a blend of option 1 and option 3, because I think what's important is that we don't only hear the feedback and give an update on the feedback from those who are present at the meeting, but those who've fed back in other channels, and that might be a much wider audience of service users. So I think a blend of option 1 and 3 would be useful. And if someone asks a question at a meeting and we don't know the answer, we can always come back to them. But I do like the idea of reporting back to the board, something that this is what we've heard. I think the other thing is really important is we engage, and we don't just engage and collect the information, we do something about it. So there must be something, like you said, we did coming out of it. So I think that's quite important to have, but that's my 2 pennies worth.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. It's great to hear your feedback, and thank you for this feedback. As I think probably I haven't made that so clear. The Let's Talk Health and Care platform is just one element, and it's complementing other work that it's happening. And in the development of the ICS engagement framework approach was very much more than that. And we just had, like, for example, 2 weeks ago in Greenwich, a big event around Iftar time with the Bengali community, where we were there and we discussed with them exactly, and to listen to them what it is important to them regarding their health, their family health, and what we should do to engage better with them in the future. Yeah, that I think that's just it was just an example, and that we included in the paper here, and that's not gonna in any way replace all the other engagement. And yeah, Naomi, all the work that you've been doing with the chart like voice charter, and that's very much important for us in Greenwich, and that's, I think, complementing the ICS work that is happening, and looking at like all the insights that we already heard from the communities, from the residents. I know you are looking to develop the library engagement practitioner network. Would look at have an ICS, like the Southeast London ICS library, with all the insights, and that was going to be hosted either through the platform, and I hope that's going to be possible. And would be great if we can maybe discuss that, Naomi, to see how we can, under Healthy Greenwich Partnership Hub on the platform, to have this library, to host this library of all the insights, because I think, like, us working together and having everything in one place would be very, very important. And thank you very much, everyone, for all your feedback. I'm going to take back all your suggestions, and yeah, we'll come back to you, continuing working with you on improving our communication and engagement with residents.
Lovely. Thank you, Liana. I think it's quite apparent it's the beginning of a dialogue of how we do things very differently. So I thank you for bringing that paper, because I think it's the start of that dialogue. Can I just ask then, with reflecting on the paper, because there were some specific asks, and I know many of you have already said that they're endorsing those. So I think in light of the questions, and you will reflect on those and take them back, can I just check that in principle, and in light of those reflections, that we're happy to endorse the direction of what's been presented in that paper? Yeah, lovely. I can see a thumbs up and hands up, so that's great. Thank you very much, Juliana. Okie doke. So we will move. Sarah, do you want me to just continue chairing, or did you
I'm
want
very
to?
happy for you to continue chairing, Jackie. If you want me to take over, then fine.
No,
But if you're happy to continue, I'm happy to chip in.
That's fine. I will. So we've got 3 more agenda items, and I can see Robert is with us. So if everyone's happy, what I'll do is take the system development paper now, and then we'll come back to the first 2 items at the end of the meeting. So Robert Shaw, if you could introduce yourself, because we have members of our public here today, and then if you can take us through your paper.
Smashing, thank you, and apologies for the background noise. I didn't quite make it to the Bexley Civic offices in time. I've got another 5 minutes to walk, so my apologies. My name's Robert Shaw. I'm Director of Systems Development, covering the boroughs of Greenwich, Bexley, and then I work with Lewisham and Greenwich Trust and Oxleys. The 2 papers you have in your pack today I'll take as read, but they are a reflection on the journey we've been on in the last 2 years. So around about 3 years ago, not far off to the month, we came back to the Healthy Greenwich Alliance as was, and got the support for setting up the systems development approach that you're all familiar with. And I think the key part to that is when we spoke with all the different stakeholders, they said we don't like transformation because transformation implies being told what to do. What we desperately need is some capability and the support to help us change and to support the ideas that we already have and bring them to life. So that's where we went down the systems development route, and we moved into that system space. To do that properly, we had to really focus on relationships. So as you've seen in the paper, quite a few examples whereby we hold ruthlessly to task, but actually we deliver through relationship in just as equal measure as we do strategy and process. Because quite often in the health and social care, we set up a meeting, we define who can say what, we have terms of reference, and we really strap ourselves in and just assume relationships take care of themselves. So that's some of the core magic that sits in what we do, and you'll see on the slide deck some examples of the tools that we use in there, and if anyone's interested, I'm happy to have conversations with people offline on those. As well as those 3 tools, we also make use of micro skills that we issue every month, and we have development half days where we have external speakers come in and really challenge us, and these are open to the whole system, everybody, right across Greenwich. And the last one we had was Jonathan Smales of ex-Greenpeace and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, where we started to explore challenges and opportunities around sustainability and circular economies. Throughout the pack then, I'll just lift out a couple of examples of programmes of work. So as you were aware, and something Naya New said to me 3 years ago, it's all very well doing this, it's a good idea, but we need to make sure we land the money. So we were the first in South East London to do a multi-borough, multi-provider, multi-year investment around home first diabetes and newer rehabilitation. So in respect of Greenwich, we were able to secure additional funding over a 3-year period of just over £5 million recurrent. So I think that's really positive, and credit to everybody within the Greenwich system and working with South East London colleagues to land all of that. We've managed 2 winters and 3 phases of COVID, which has thrown all sorts at us. But again, being able to work as a system in relationship with all of our partners together has really come to the fore. And if we think of some of our discharge challenges and flows we had 2.5 years ago, we don't have any of them. We've not had any of them probably for well over a year now. We're one of the few sites in South East London that regularly delivers over that 30% stretch mark, day in, day out, for discharge position. Our challenge has more become the front door now. So we completed our piece of work around the perfect week for the front door, and we have our recommendations now and moving them forward. And pleased to say that together with colleagues from Greenwich Health, we did a little pilot, and we're now extending that from the end of this month to work and look at some same-day primary care and support and ED with the walk-ins as a prelude to some future procurements, hopefully. And then if I look around some of the end-to-end pathways around planned care, so we've been quite successful in our work around skin matters. We'll be coming back here shortly in a few weeks' time to present all of that, and we're presenting at the session at the Lewisham and Greenwich Trust in a couple of weeks' time. But that's really helped us to really get underneath how we make some of our services sustainable now, and how we really do start to tackle some of the inequalities. So from a dermatological perspective, if a Greenwich resident wished to go to Lewisham Greenwich Trust, at the moment, because of COVID and all the things that have happened to us, you're probably waiting nearly 42 weeks. Yet if you wanted to go to King's or GSTT, you'd only have to wait 18 weeks. So there was quite a bit of work to do all of those, and we've been successful in the Elective Recovery Fund, and we're just working together with the hospital now to look to submit a business case for ongoing support on some of the workforce piece. And then lastly, in community diagnostic space, so as you may remember, a few months ago we came along to the partnership to pitch our corner, if you like, to have some community diagnostic services. And I'm pleased to say the back end of last week we got the green light from the national team now to move ahead to the next phase. So we now have to complete a mini business case in 3.5 weeks, which is generous in NHSE terms for those of us who have to do these things, to submit then to be able to put some community diagnostics capacity up and into Eltham, which will be absolutely wonderful, and again some additional funding that comes with that of capital and revenue investment for both. So as we move forward now, we've got our second year of those multi-provider, multi-year programs around Home First, diabetes and neuro rehab to do. We've got to land, as I say, the final parts of skin matters, and then we'll start on gynecology. So again, really try to shift and do our part as a borough and working around that outpatient elective stream. Exciting, we've managed to secure a little bit of money and an alternative approach for some of our allied health professionals. So as we've often said, we have challenges in recruiting, retaining and supporting our workforce. So this is a different system approach to doing that. So it'll be really exciting to move that forward. And we are moving into a difficult world, as we've all seen in the last 2 years and more recently. And the cost pressures upon the health and social care remain relentless and ever tighter. And there is a tendency, if we're not careful, to hold a cost mindset. So whilst we have to absolutely balance our books, if all we do is year-on-year cost savings, you end up in a position that's not sustainable. So we also need to make sure that we keep that innovation and investment mindset. So we are investing in the right spaces, in the right areas, and at the right time. And then finally, a huge thank you. We couldn't do what you want us to do unless you give us a license to do it. We do genuinely sit in the system in the middle. We started life in Greenwich from commissioning, and a huge thank you to Lewisham and Greenwich Trust colleagues and to Oxley's colleagues who positively embraced us, forgived us our sins of the past with us as commissioners and move forward. And it remains a real privilege to be able to sit in the middle and do the work. So I'm happy to stop there, Jackie, and take any questions. I'll switch my camera off so you don't all get seasick as I'm walking up the road to my next meeting. So the joys of doing online and face-to-face in one day, but thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Robert. There's a lot of depth and breadth in that paper, and I think it's set out in a very personal way about some of the impact on people, which is really welcomed. Can I invite comments or questions from everyone around the room? Starting with Naomi.
I don't know, Robert, I just, the A&E thing, it may be more Sandra than Robert, just, it sounded like you're going to put in extra provision, and I just wondered, you know, why is there this flow into A&E? Why are A&Es across the country, but I'm guessing in Lewisham and Greenwich, just overwhelmed, and what can be done to try and prevent that? Because I regularly go to my...
Yeah, sure. So the perfect week showed us that we have far more patients who walk in to A&E than we have from ambulance conveyances, and we still have quite a mixture of those. A lot of patients need same-day primary care. So there's the piece which we're trialling an extended period now with Greenwich Health colleagues to see what opportunities, how we can support and help patients around some of those. We've seen a general rise in acuity right across the board, as I think we've seen in lots of spaces, and ED is no different to that. We've also seen on some of the pathways whereby, you know, because of challenges that COVID and the last few years have given us, some people's health has become a little bit more deteriorated, so they are looking to access care within the same day, of which ED is a key part for them.
I'm not sure whether Robert was cut off there or whether he'd finished talking. So, Robert, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you. Sorry, I'm just trying to shut out the background noise as I walk to the Civic Centre, that's all.
That's fine, just checking. Okie doke. Sarah.
Yeah, I suppose I just want to say thank you for that, Robert, and that point you were making about increased acuity in terms of people's needs, and recognising that the challenges that we're facing right across all of the partners. So really appreciate that system work that Robert and colleagues are doing, and that home first piece, you know, being particularly important, I think, in terms of the more we can support people in their own homes, the less some of those other pressures, or they're less likely to increase at quite the same rate, I suppose. So I guess I just wanted to recognise that and thank you for all that work you're doing, because there's a huge amount in what you've just described, and I know that that's not all of it either.
Smashing, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Lovely. We've got Lisa and then Niraj.
Thanks, Jackie. Robert, really helpful paper, and I've worked with you for a relatively short space of time, but in terms of the methods that your team use, they're really similar to those that I believe are the kind of future of commissioning in a way, and the way that we work as system partners together. We know that commissioning is evolving. So I think you referenced a point in the paper about sharing the love. That was a conversation that you and I had about how we can support each other with development across our teams. So I'd be really keen to pick up that conversation as Dave Borland and I and Jackie also think about the development of our integrated commissioning teams, the methods, the skills, the mindsets that we all need going forward, and trying to join some of that up. I think there's lots of opportunities there, and thinking in that investment mindset absolutely about how we invest the Greenwich pound and a joined up pound for the benefit of our residents is really key in all of that. It was really good to read the stories as well, but let's pick up a conversation further about how we can join up even more and get the benefit from all of our skills and resources across our team.
Yeah, no, absolutely, we certainly will. Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Niraj.
Hi, sorry, I'm Niraj. I'm a GP in Thamesmead, but also chair of Greenwich Health, which is the federation of all the practices, and we've been involved in the A&E pilot. Just going back to Naomi's point, yeah, access in A&E and primary care is a very complicated situation. So when we were looking at those kind of records, there's multiple issues with flows, with access to general practice, unregistered patients, health beliefs, and I'm kind of bringing this back to the engagement piece, that the responsibility of health and social care is not just on commissioners and providers, and the service users have an equal responsibility about how the services are used. And there is an element of that, of things that really most of us would consider to be self-care, go and see a pharmacist, but ending up in A&E. I'm just saying that's a fraction of it, but I'm saying it's a multifaceted problem. And coming back to Juliana's point about engagement, if it's literally about service users or patients just telling us what they want and it being a one-way process or a consumerist process, but we're not having this honest conversation about finite resources, those that need those resources most. We've talked about health inequalities, that it's not my problem as a GP or Jackie's problem or Sarah's problem, it's all of our problem. And if it's all of our problem, then there has to be a joint response. And so, I mean, I think one of the great things about the ICS is that actually we can look at these problems in lots of different ways. And yes, there's things that we need to improve as providers, but I think it's a much bigger problem and I think the COVID vaccination showed us this, that there are certain health beliefs, certain views about health and social care services, certain views around. I mean, I was astonished at how many patients aren't actually registered with a GP. Now, partly that could be we as GPs maybe making it difficult. I hope we don't, but there are issues there that Healthwatch have raised. But there are also lots of reasons why patients aren't being registered, and it's their choice, which is such a global problem. I don't want to get into it here, but there's so many things we could do in terms of that. So I was just responding to Naomi on that one.
Lovely. Thank you, Niraj. Tuan and then Ian, and then I'll draw this to an end.
Yeah, no, just really very similar to what Lisa said, really, comments. I thought it was an excellent paper, Robert, looking through, reading through, hearing your ideas, understanding what work, what success you've had across working with multiple providers. I think was really clear and helpful. I think us as a Health Greenwich partnership, I think the role that the group plays and the support that you provide to the partnership, I think will become increasingly important. And just hearing that outlined, I thought was really helpful. That was all. Thank you.
Smashing, thank you.
Thank you. And Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Ian Diamond, I'm Chief Operating Officer at Oxley's NHS Trust. So I just wanted to kind of say that I thought it was a really helpful paper. I think the work that Robert and others have been doing has been fantastic. I think I would also echo some of what other colleagues have said. I think what sets apart the work that we're doing here locally from, say, other kind of neighbouring systems in South East London is that we haven't kind of taken the focus through ED. I mean, for all the reasons that people have said, ED is important, but I think the work that Robert and others are involved in is seeing that as symptomatic of issues elsewhere in the system. And I think the approach that we're taking is really to kind of shine a light on what needs to happen in that wider system, and the capacity that needs to be built, not just by service providers, but as Niraj has said, about how we work with the public in terms of building up their kind of capacity as well to kind of manage conditions. So I think it is about almost like a paradigm shift of seeing the kind of the issues within the hospital as symptomatic of something that's happening elsewhere, rather than doing the kind of firefighting at the front door. So I think that relationship point that Robert has mentioned is absolutely key. I know people have said this, and I don't mean this glibly. I think the kind of context of COVID has created a different kind of different conditions for kind of working together, and I think that's been really positive, and it's now about sustaining that. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely.
Smashing, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I don't know whether there's anything you want to add, Robert, or I'll just draw this to an end.
No, just want to go and just say thank you to everybody, and it is genuinely a privilege when we do these things together, because when you sit in the middle you do see all the different sides, and you'll be able to create those linkages, and just really look forward to carrying on doing the great work with partnership. It'd be great. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Robert. I think Ian, you summed that up really beautifully about often a problem in one area is symptomatic of problems in the system, and therefore actually we're all in this together, and we will have some challenging conversations ahead, but we need to have those in making change and the whole system work better. Thank you, Robert, for your paper. And again, like all of this is a beginning of a dialogue. Okay, what I would like to do is, I know on the agenda we have a section for the members of the public to ask questions, and we have got 2 agenda items which are just about the partnership itself. But I thought, because we've been discussing things very, very pertinent to members of the public about the way our systems work together, our health inequalities, and our communications and engagement, I thought maybe this would be an opportunistic moment for you to ask any questions now that are relevant to those agendas. Was there anything that any of our guests would like to ask? Paul, you're on mute, Paul.
Aye.
Oh,
is that right?
There we go. Yes,
Great.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, there's a couple of points really. One is the level of transparency and so forth in these meetings. I was able to read this on Monday afternoon. Sorry, not Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. Although I'm told it went on Monday afternoon. That is not sufficient time, certainly for anybody putting written questions. So that's a real difficulty. It was very difficult to find out there was an actual meeting. It was only because I found out about it because I was chasing to find out when the Greenwich Borough Board was meeting, and so I found that. Just a general point on that. I found the public engagement and communications discussion paper very disappointing. I see that public are going to be access these meetings, which appear to be monthly, every 3 months. I've had a look on the Let's Talk Healthcare in South East London, and there's not a lot on there, and I think it's quite difficult for a lot of people to access. One of the areas that I would put out is that the concentration should be certainly on practices. We have PPGs, which as far as I know are still statutory bodies, but they don't seem to play any role in this whatsoever. In terms of my practice, Plumstead Health Centre has just gone through a merger with Trinity. There was a survey of the 12,000 people. They had 450 people replied, which was actually, I mean, it's a small percentage, but for a survey, quite a decent percentage. And a lot of the people there are people who use the practice a lot. And that was quite revealing. Now, in terms of inequality, the question I'd ask is, how does the inequality thing want to improve access? Because access is one of the major problems, and that certainly came up. And the problem we've got there in terms of inequality is that if you can afford private provision, you may be able to get that access quite quickly, but if you can't, you don't, and that is a massive source of a 2-tier system and also inequality. So I would, of those points, there are 8 points made about inequality, I would put that as maybe a priority. They're all priorities, but maybe that one is a priority. I know I'm going on, but the only other thing I'd like to ask questions about is, when are the patients and the community around Plumstead Health Centre going to be actually involved in discussing the proposals for the redevelopment of the health centre in Chewsome Road? I mean, what we've got is a statement in Robert Shaw's piece about the Estates Forum, and there it says, you know, they're looking into the options and so forth. I've argued, and it's been about 4 years now, I've argued that if there were going to be options, those options should be openly put out, and there should be a wide-scale discussion on those, because it is an important piece of NHS land. And I think that the proposals I saw previously of a new health centre and 3 blocks of flats wasn't sufficient in terms of what Robert Shaw talked about of innovation and investment rather than cost mindset. And so therefore 2 questions really. One is, why have the practices and people in that and the way in which you can contact them been overlooked in the public engagement? And secondly, when with the redevelopment of the estates, which has always been quite secretive, the estates forum, when is that actually going to share those options with the patients and the community in Plumstead? Because it could be a very vital and important development in terms of various services, developing our workforce and so forth, accommodation for health workers. It could be all sorts of things that are there. And I've got my worries that those options don't include that. I'll leave it at that. I agree with Dr. Patel at Galleon's Reach that this is a shared thing, that we share it. The problem is that when, I mean, okay, I'm particularly active, but when I ask for things like data on access or best practice or what's going on, it's not particularly forthcoming, and I can't. It's very, very frustrating. I've been long enough. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Paul. There was a number of points in that, both about comms engagement, Plumstead specifically, and also access and health inequalities. So I'll take the rest of the questions, and I think I'll ask Sarah, I think is going to come in, probably reflect on some of that, and others might want to also do that. Bianca, you have a question too.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning and I was late. So my name's Bianca. I'm the founder of Parents Power Education, based in Greenwich. We're a community-based organisation supporting families and parents with mental health, well-being, and all things parenting. And so I did like the report around communication and engagement. One of the things we do as an organisation is we have a parent voice, and we also support parents in engaging in services through consultation, and they do support with design and delivery of our services to young people, particularly in Greenwich. And I just wanted to find out what's been done in regard to engagement of parents and ensuring that their voice is also heard in regard to health, well-being, mental health for themselves, but also for children and young people in particular. I feel personally that really parents, need to have a greater voice, and they need to be consulted on how services are designed and delivered, obviously for their children and for their young people. Like I said, we're currently kind of piloting a parent voice, which we're trying to get into schools at the moment. But I feel like parents also need to be heard.
Absolutely. I'm conscious we have a children and young people's lead, because I know there's lots of work in terms of the children's voice going on, and he's not here, so that might be something that we come back and share all of the depth and breadth of what's happening. But totally agree with you on that is the right question to ask. Sarah, did you want to? Your hands come off. I wasn't sure whether. Do you want to reflect on some of that, and then we'll bring others in.
Yeah, very happy to, Jackie. And I think there's quite a few questions there from Paul, and we can perhaps give some written answers in terms of some of the detail. I suppose I just did want to say that. We are in transition. We are moving into the ICS. We've had the Health and Care Bill now has passed, and the ICS will from the 1st of July come into being on a statutory basis. So as this partnership, we're moving through that transition. And I think that actually the conversation we had about how we engage and communicate with the public was a very encouraging one, and we want to do that in as many different ways as possible and draw different voices in. And so I think, Bianca, if I start actually with your comment. I think that's
Yeah.
you know, that's really helpful. We want to hear from parents. We've done lots of deep engagement work, and particularly worked with parents of people with special educational needs and disabilities, but there's obviously a broader parent voice. So I think that what you've just kind of reflecting on the conversation we've had, it's really about how we think together about doing things differently, how we engage more people and get that range of different voices. So the Let's Talk tool, and Joy's helpfully put a link in the chat, is for me, that's a tool, and that's a tool that we can use going forward. It's not populated because it's new, and we've just begun this conversation, I think, really about how we can use that to support what we want to do, but that's just one tool that we can use. So I guess it's about drawing together all kinds of different voices from across Greenwich, and how we collect that and use that through different fora. We've also with our Health and Wellbeing Board, which with a new council administration we need to reconstitute, but we have already started to meet as a Health and Wellbeing Board in an informal way as well as a formal way, and that means taking the board out to different parts of the borough and hearing more people's voices in those different areas. So we met recently in Thamesmead, for example, and had a very rich discussion, I think, about some of the particular issues there. So recognise the point about the papers coming out and requests for written questions. So, you know, as I say, this is a transition, and clearly we need to make sure that there's proper notice and that people are aware, and we've got more tools that we can use to do that. I don't think I'm in a position to kind of comment in any detail about practice mergers and some of those other issues, but as I said, we can always come back in writing, or others may have things that they want to contribute.
Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. I think, Paul, I'm not sure whether that's an alt hand. I think it might be, but just can I just reflect on the you asked a question about the health inequalities and the access issue, and I couldn't agree more, and it was reflected a little in the paper on health inequalities. A lot we don't know, and we need to get a lot better at knowing who accesses our services, not just that. So one is about the data and being clear about it, and we did quite a bit of that as part of the vaccine work, and actually changed the way we did things because we understood that people didn't access. Part of it is understanding who does and doesn't access, but then part of it is about going in a lot more deeper to get the rich information. That's insight work, and that's one of the things we picked up in the health inequalities paper, because we recognise we need to get much better at doing that, but also sharing what we do, because it's all relevant to each other. What one does in one area is relevant to another area. So that was picked up in one of the actions in that. And then the third part of the response to that is about so if we have so once we have that insight, it isn't about what we believe, just what we think a service looks like. We then have to co-design that service to make sure that it meets the needs of different individuals. So and again, that was another thing that we picked up in the health inequalities work. So hopefully we'll start to build on a lot of the work, but shape that differently in the future. With regards to Plumstead, I noticed Dr. Atul Sharma was on in the meeting earlier, and I was going to bring him in, but he isn't. So perhaps what I'll do, Paul, is take that question away, and we can we can come back to you on that, because it was both about estates as well as the changes in that. Okay, Bianca, is that an old hand? I think it is. I can't hear otherwise, so I will continue on. So that was a really helpful discussion. We've got two more things on the agenda now, so I will take us back to the beginning. and that is which actually we could probably roll up into one. One is really an update in terms of where we are in terms of the local care partnership developments, and then also linked to that just some reflections on some work that we've been doing, and and a discussion about where we might want to go next. So I'm going to hand over back to Sarah to start taking us through this.
So thank you, Jackie. And I think you're right. We can probably roll these two up together, and I'm conscious of people's time, so I'll be sort of fairly brief. So as I just said, the Health and Care Bill has now passed, so the ICS formally comes into being, and we as a local care partnership, as the Healthier Greenwich partnership, will formally start from July as well. So I just wanted to, I suppose the first thing was to confirm that the place executive lead role that I'm in, there's still some due process and things to finalise in terms of that all being in place, but we are kind of acting in shadow arrangements at the moment. And just to remind people as well that Neil Kennett Brown has been appointed to the Director of Operations role, so he will be a kind of key go-to person really in terms of our partnership in Greenwich. We have since we last met, we did advertise the role as chair, and that is progressing, and we hope by the end of the week to be able to give some more information about where we're up to in relation to that. But I'm optimistic that we will appoint and we'll be able to let you know in the next 24 hours or so. And I suppose the first thing I've done in the place executive lead role is to go to the first development session of the Integrated Care Board. So there was a session last week which began to bring people together. It wasn't the whole of the board because there are still some appointments to be made to that, which include some of the collaboratives and local authority representation. But it was the beginning of bringing together those people that have been appointed to the board, and I think it was really encouraging. Really, there was a lot of fresh faces, lots of I think a real sense that this is an opportunity and an opportunity to do things differently. Quite a number of people are doing dual roles, so obviously I'm one of those, but actually a number of appointments are people who are working in the system, if you like, and retaining those roles. So it does really reinforce that message that we are the partnership, you know, together. It's not setting up a new and separate organisation. So I think it's an opportunity, as I say, to do things differently over time. Things won't change overnight, and we will need to work hard together to make those shifts that we want to see to more prevention and early intervention. And I think, as you just mentioned, the vaccination experience, Jackie, in relation to inequalities, and I think, you know, Niraj's comments earlier about how that experience, I think, what that we've had locally, where we've worked together to be able to deliver something which is a national programme, but deliver it in a way locally that meets the needs of our residents and does address some of those inequalities, I think is really good experience to build on. And I guess that's the kind of what we want to see happen more broadly. I think Ian's left now, but that sort of paradigm shift that he talked about, I do think we have an opportunity at this point to do that. So if then item 6 was really around us as a partnership and how we think about our development. We did some work with PPL and Kaleidoscope on a bit of a diagnostic, and then also some work on the diabetes project. Not all partners were able to come to that workshop, but I think it did help us to see kind of what some of the issues are within the partnership and how we might want to develop that. And so the other thing that happened last week is the kind of core integrated team met. So myself and Jackie and Steve as the Director of Public Health, Lisa and her integrated director colleagues, and also Neil was able to join us for that. So we began to do some thinking about what support we can offer really to the partnership and how that needs to work. And as we move into this next phase, I think we felt it was important to think about our development as a partnership. So how we use our time together to best effect. That's partly sort of practical things about having a clear purpose and how we plan our agendas and making sure we're clear about what's for information, what's for the decision, etc. But it's also about us having some time to develop as a partnership. So having some time and this to some degree reflects why not all meetings will be in public, because it is actually about us working together to develop our plan. Think about what our kind of overarching purpose is, what are the things that we need to do together, and what are the guiding principles and ways of working in terms of how we want to do that. So I guess my ask of you all is that we need some time in order, to do some of that work together. So that does require people's time and participation. And I think it's really important that all partners feel equal within the partnership, and, developing those trust and relationships that we've talked about before is going to be really important. So I haven't got a sort of firm proposal today, but I think Jackie and I are going to work something up which will scope out how we want to do that over the next sort of 12 months, because I think it's not a one-off thing, it's about how we develop over the next year. And so we can share that with people once we've scoped that a bit and get people's thoughts on that. So I would imagine that would be a sort of series of sessions that we do together. And I think we're proposing to get some support and facilitation with that as well. So Jackie, I don't know if there's anything you want to add. I think that's broadly it. I mean, there are some other practical things we'll need to do before July, which kind of confirm the terms of reference of the partnership and the membership, etc. And so we'll come to that next time, I think.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. No, that's all. I think when as part of the workshop, when we thought about the things we need to think about, there's lots, and I think it was recognizing that actually this will take time, and we won't get it perfect on day one, but we'll move there. But there's lots to consider over this next year. Thank you, Sarah. So are there any questions in relation to that? I could see lots of nods as we moved along, so I think people were happy that seemed to be the right approach. Okay, if no more, then the only other thing is any other business. Nothing. So
just quickly, I just want to, the doodle poll that I sent out last week in relation to the meeting time of the partnership meetings going forward. I'll send a reminder to everyone after this meeting, but if everyone can just respond to that by the end of the week, that'd be great.
Lovely, thank you for that, Alex. Yes, no, I think Thursdays weren't ideal for all organisations, so we'll hopefully find one that meets all of that we can all attend. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Lovely to see you all, and thank you to our members of public too for joining us. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks everyone. Bye.